Welcome back to another episode of Ignite Agility. Today, Christian and I are going to respond to the number of graduates and followers in our network that have been pinging us going, what do you think about the PMI news? What do you think about the Agile Alliance announcement that they're now with PMI? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Drop us a question or a comment, or give us a little subscribe and ring that bell if you like what you hear. Christian, let's just start with your initial thoughts when you saw the big announcement. What's the first thing that went through your head?
I started to scratch my head. It was it
Okay.
was confusing. Been in this game since, 2008, 9, and the game I'm talking about is agility, Scrum specifically. And I know they're using the word agile, which we all know is adaptive. And my experience with projects is it's a plan-based approach, and it's very hard to change that plan. And so now there's this adaptive value-based model that's being incorporated into a plan-based approach. So that's my confusion.
Well, and that plan-based approach isn't just anti-adaptive. I mean, if you think about the traditional language I learned when I came through my project management professional credential, which I've since let go, very freeing, is we talked about change control,
Right.
change request, and you only got to adapt if your change request was blessed. So you're confused. The part,
Scratching the head.
So the part I'm reacting to is you mentioned agile, you mentioned adaptive, and that's what the creators of the Agile Software Development Manifesto meant, because they were going to call it adaptive, but they settled on agile. So I always encourage people to go to agilemanifesto.org/history, because I think sometimes the history is getting lost. And so if you look at the frameworks that were represented, guess who wasn't represented? Project management.
Plan-based.
PMI wasn't invited to the party. And it's not that these 17 gentlemen didn't know PMI existed. Some of them even taught for PMI at that time. And they were trying so very, very hard to do something different.
Yep.
And so when we think about the Agile Alliance versus the Scrum Alliance, I mean, it's no secret that you and I teach for the Scrum Alliance, and Scrum is Agile, but Agile isn't necessarily considered Scrum because Scrum's creators helped write that manifesto. I always, ask students, what's the last thing the Project Management Institute wants? What's the last thing in the world they want? What do you think? What's the last thing they want to have happen in the world of work?
Projects to go away.
Right? Which is what happens when you do a product-based model, when you
Yeah.
do
Yeah. It becomes work.
organizational
Yep.
and design change that Scrum requires. Quite frankly, so does some of the other agile frameworks. Extreme programming requires even more change. So the last thing the PMI wants is for people to stop using PMI, because then what happens to the Project Management Institute? So in my opinion, because it is an opinion, and that's what our students have asked us for, it's a smart move on PMI's part to try to give the appearance that they're agile. And so many graduates of mine have said, but Angela, in the new project management body of knowledge, in the new PMBOK, they've sprinkled a bunch of agile stuff. I can put lipstick on a pig
Yeah.
all day long. It's still a pig.
And you got to where I was going to ask was, what do you think the problem they're trying to solve is? And of course it's relevance, it's staying alive, it's self-preservation, and that's where I think it's coming from. They're trying to stay relevant.
Well, and you mentioned being in this game since 2008, 2009. For me, it's even further back. So this year is my 20th year. So it's like I've seen a lot of stuff.
That's
come
two
and go.
decades by my math.
I've seen a lot of stuff. And so hearing people involved in the Agile Alliance talk about the difference between the two, when Ken Schwaber started talking about certification at the Scrum Alliance, the Agile Alliance was, no, we're not going to do certification. We're going to do community-based events and blah, blah, blah. And we're still going to be a nonprofit. Okay. no secret to anybody who is a member of the Agile Alliance, not the Scrum Alliance, that in the last couple of years they have struggled mightily,
They
and they
could
have
not
been
run their events. Their events were having a hard time.
not making
What?
any money.
Why do you suppose that is? Why were their events no longer being attended?
I numerous reasons. The big Agile Alliance events were 5 full days. That's significant. Not just buying your ticket, which was over $2,000, not just
Right.
paying for your travel, but missing 5 full days of work. The other thing, those conferences have been around largely since just after 2001, when the manifesto came into being. And for me, it's always the same people.
Yeah.
It's
I
always
was
the same people. And I know, and if you follow the stuff on social media, there's a lot of people accusing, the volunteers who select the presenters of favoritism. And then those people say, no, we didn't. We really tried to make it objective. And then it's like, yeah, but it's always the same people. So,
and it's
um,
tough I went to two conferences, and on the second conference I was really looking for a deeper dive and I couldn't find that.
mhm.
I think if they hadn't adjusted that, that makes sense. And how many things can you cover the basics on? How many different times? And to your point, spend that money, that time to come hear basics again. That's where I was at. I was like, I don't know.
Nothing for you there. And so the Agile Alliance, started talking very openly on social media and Google groups and things like that about not making any money and being in real trouble. So, okay, get it, right? Totally get it. Financial move. The part that's making me just laugh out loud is everybody and their sister has rushed to social media to give their opinion. And we took our time, and it's a couple weeks later, and now we're giving our opinion. But they're everybody's calling it a merger. Everybody's calling it a merger, calling it a takeover, because they even renamed. It's no longer Agile Alliance. It's PMI, Agile Alliance. But the part that's making me laugh out loud is the people involved that are just losing their mind going, it's not a merger. It's a strategic partnership. It's not a takeover. It's a strategic partnership. Read the fine print. I kind of picture Cartman from South Park. Respect my authority, and I hate to break it to these people, but perception is reality.
You put it in
Per-
the name.
Perception is reality. So to see PMI, Project Management Institute Agile Alliance, and to think one hasn't consumed the other or they haven't merged, oh, come on.
PMI is huge. It is massive.
Yeah, perception is reality. And so if they really didn't want to convey that Agile Alliance is now somehow consumed, they wouldn't have done that, in my opinion, with the name. But they did it. And now everybody is going to be saying things even worse. You and I've seen this for the last how many years now. People are going to be like, oh, we're Agile. We're using Project Management Institute's version of Agile. We're,
Yeah.
we're Agile. We do a 15-minute daily. We're Agile. We use Jira.
Yep. It's going to perpetuate that.
Yeah. And so, I don't want to turn this into an Agile or Scrum is dead, because we've done plenty of other conversations about that, and it's not dead. You and I have talked about that. So the shoulder angel says stuff like, hey, you've done lots of waterfall projects. Could you have benefited from a 15-minute or less daily instead of a once a month status or a once a week status?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But
We
that's,
did at the end of our projects because it was go time, and we would have a huddle every day to go what needs to get done. So we would do things like that, but only at the end, not throughout the entire project. It was only when it got to crunch time. So yeah, wouldn't it be cool if we did that every day of the project?
yeah. I mean, you can borrow some of these agile
Absolutely.
practices. That's not going to make you agile. That's not going to make you nimble, make you able to pivot, turn on a dime for a dime. That only comes from the deep structural and behavioral change that a lot of these ideas are now sadly getting lost in and getting watered down. And I don't think Scrum and Agile is dead. I think the companies that really want to do this are going to, or people who are in startup mode, they're naturally
They have to be.
structured and work this
Yeah.
way. But the big organizations that have waterfall just entrenched in their structure, that's not going to happen.
In
They're
their
just
souls. Yeah.
lipstick on pigs,
And
just lipstick on pigs.
we say it in our classes, if you do want to use an adaptive approach to your work and you call the work a project, you have to have a consistent team. You have to have consistency. Otherwise, you lose benefits every time you reform team and how much effort is lost every time you reform team. So I would be curious to how they do this to say, are we going to endorse long lived stable teams as a part of this, or are we still going to be spinning up teams to run projects? At the end of the project, we disband the team.
Who knows? All I know is they can, scream and yell all they want that it's not a merger or a takeover, that it's a strategic partnership. But I think that it's just going to add fuel to the fire for the people who don't want to change, but just want to say they're agile.
Yeah.
And it'll further alienate people who are interested in working a different way. One of our graduates that I helped with their final certified Scrum professional yesterday, passed her final review. One of the things she said is it's political suicide. Her words, not mine, where she is right now to fight the PMO, which of course stands for Project Management Institute. So she said they want to say they're agile, but she, can't come with her scrummy and agile stuff because they just push back, right? People are assigned to multiple projects. We're using Azure DevOps. They migrated from Jira to Azure DevOps because they wanted to be more agile. It just made me like a little nauseous. But I'm like, okay. She's asking you for help. So here's the help I gave her, and everybody else can just benefit from it. You've heard me say 1,001 times, don't use the scrummy and agile language, but here's the language I encouraged her to use, because she said she was coming at the PMO leader and saying, long live stable teams, like you just said, right? Dedicate teams. And she's getting massive pushback. I said, of course you are, because that's resistance to change. That's resistance to that project management way of working. Flip it around. We're going to stop making people chase work. We're going to have people focus on goals and objectives. So we need to bring those in an ordered manner to that team.
Good way to say it.
Yeah. And she just was furiously writing that down. She's like, I'm going to try that. So it's like, you can't make another person change. That's why I do think shame on PMI and Agile Alliance for what they did with the name, because it's only going to reinforce the people who don't want to change. But we can continue to adapt. We can continue to change our approach and find what resonates, because
Absolutely.
words matter.
Yes, they do. That's really good.
Perception is reality.
Doesn't matter what it is. The other thing that you brought up, Cartman, I think of Ross and Rachel. We were on a break.
Okay,
we are a strategic partner.
Dating all of us with our references, right? So you bring up Friends, I bring up South Park. I could have brought up Xerox, right?
Could have. Yeah.
Well, go Xerox this. No, it's a photocopy.
No, it's a photo.
No, get me
grab
a Kleenex.
Right. Kleenex.
No, it's Costco brand. Well, then it's not Kleenex. It's a tissue. Right. It's not a merger. It's a strategic partnership.
Okay.
We'll see. Well, to our graduates who wanted to know what Christian and I thought, there you have it.
You asked for it, and unfortunately, you got it.
Thanks for listening.
All right.